Hey guys, Jay Hoyt here. Before this video gets started, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support on the channel recently. You guys have been absolutely amazing. But if we can continue that, help me reach 300 subscribers here on the channel if you haven't yet, or if you're brand new to my channel, just getting here, seeing me for the first time, hit that subscribe button down below. Like I said, we're working our way towards 300 subscribers. But with weeks 1 and 2 done in the CDL, it's time for a recap. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you today. Welcome back to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. We almost dropped a 50 bomb in this league play matchup. Hardpoint on Garrison, playing with Ben in the game. His links will be down below the video in the description if you want to go check him out. But today's video, as I said in the intro, we're recapping weeks 1 and 2. So technically there was supposed to be a second week. I was going to do a recap. However, then they kind of merged it into a super week. So weeks 1 and 2. So that's week 1 and the super week of games. We're going to be recapping it all here. Where does everyone stand in power rankings? Recap from the week itself. And of course, this week is the major. Starting on Wednesday with the losers bracket. We'll get into the actual bracket later on. But we're going to start right here at the bottom of the power rankings, at the bottom of the table. That's going to be the London Royal Ravens. These guys 0-5. I mean, they've won some maps, don't get me wrong, but this team just isn't looking good. Obviously, if you remember this team, you know, when we made a preview of them, these guys actually aren't playing with their full squad. They had to pick up Parasite due to some visa issues with Zero, and he's still over in the UK, still playing with Parasite. This team just hasn't, like the 3 European players especially, have not looked like their previous selves, and this team just hasn't been performing at all. So those guys sit in 12th on our power rankings, but let's move up to number 11. There could be a couple teams at number 11 here, but we'll go with the Seattle Surge. Once again, I feel like we're talking about Seattle and sucking, and even with a better team than last year, with the likes of Octane, Gunless, Pristini, and Looney, how is this team losing? I don't know what the deal is, but this team should be in the minimum top 8 right now, like minimum. But somehow this team isn't working. They suck. Don't know what the deal is. They did play some of the better teams close, but close doesn't count for anything in this case. You got to get the win, and these guys just haven't really looked like they want one. Moving up to 10th, we have the Florida Mutineers. Now, a lot of people were picking Florida to be in that top echelon of teams this year. And then where did this team come from? 1 and 4. Something huge is missing from this team. I don't know what it is, but this team coming from last year, I know they kind of split their squad in half in a sense, and kind of got rid of some players, but still, this team had a really solid team around them. They should be winning. They've played some teams really tough. They've taken maps off top teams. But just for whatever reason, this team is not performing. Like I said, these guys, with big expectations coming into this league and to this year, this team should be doing a lot better. But a 1 and 4 start is definitely not what I saw coming. Let's move up to 9th place, and our one team out of the top 8, the Toronto Ultra. Now, I kind of predicted these guys to be down there anyway, but this team just hasn't shown much. I mean, honestly, they've looked decent at most at times, and that's about it. I mean, they haven't been 3-0'd, so they are taking some maps, and their only map win only match win so far is against Florida. So Florida's not performing, Toronto's not performing, and with Toronto's only win being against Florida, they're just kind of down here. I mean, this is the bottom 4 teams in the game right now. And I should also mention London and Seattle are in Group B. Florida and Toronto are in Group A. I probably should mention that just so you guys know. So there was separate groups for all this. And, of course, we'll get to that later on once we get into the bracket as well. But let's move on into the 8th position from Group A. You have the Los Angeles Guerrillas. And these guys, I mean, these guys are beating the struggling teams and somehow doing well other times. I mean, it's really weird. The average kind of bad team, Vivid looks to be the best player on this team, hands down. But I don't know. I mean, just nothing really is happening here. I mean, they are 2-3, don't get me wrong, but just kind of really average from this team. Up to our 7th place team, also from Group A, the Paris Legion. Now, I said this team was going to be at the bottom of the standings, no question about it. They might move up a couple of spots, but I definitely didn't think these guys were going to be where they are. So these guys really surprising. They took Atlanta, one of our best teams in the game, to a Game 5. They took the Los Angeles Guerrillas to a Game 5. They lost both of those games. But on the other hand, they beat Florida 3-0. Optic then 3-0's them. Actually, it was the first matchup. And then they won Game 5 versus Toronto. You take the best team in the group to Game 5. You get 3-0'd by the second best group in your group. Then it just, what is happening here? I don't know if it's just a matchup thing or what, but Paris has definitely been surprising so far. And I'm really eating my words now, but still early. Some teams still have a lot of time to improve on and a lot of changes to make before the end of the year. Into our top 6 teams. These teams, probably no question why these guys are here. But our 6th place team from Group B is the Minnesota Rocker. Now, the only reason these guys are here is because of matchups. And Minnesota's looked good. I mean, like I said in, the early season, this team has the upset potential. They definitely have the squad that they can win matches. But this team has looked pretty straightforward so far. They've looked as expected. They took Dallas to a Game 5, and then they lost versus the LA Thieves. So in the group, I would have predicted these guys to be 3rd overall, and that's kind of right where they're sitting with the exception of the New York Subliners, which also happens to be our next team in 5th place. The New York Subliners, that is, and they've actually looked really surprising so far. Now, when I say that, it's mainly because of all the early game things that happened to New York, right? They lose Zuma due to, I'll call it an injury or medical reasons. He had to retire. Their roster with Hydra kind of, I don't want to say fell through, but he kind of got stuck over in France, so they had to pick up ASIM. Then they had to call up Diamond Con from their academy roster, so Clayster Mac kind of had to hold down the fort as Diamond Con and ASIM have had to shown up. And then ASIM has looked like one of their best players. And after Minnesota dropped him in the offseason, a lot of people were predicting ASIM to be on a starting roster this year, and no one picked him up. New York then needs a substitute. They needed a player to fill in. ASIM was that guy. Zuma, I believe, gets him on this roster, and unfortunately, he ended up having to take his place. But this team has been surprising. They've only lost to LA Thieves and to Dallas, so that's a pretty good start. The 2 best teams in your group, you've only lost to them. So you're looking pretty much as expected with a record of 3-2. In our 4th place team, could anyone would have guessed that this would be our top 4, the LA Thieves. These guys were 4-0 to start out Group A. Their last matchup, of course, versus the world champion, or I should say the reigning world champs at Dallas Empire, who started off 3-1 themselves. But the LA Thieves have looked really good so far, only losing to Dallas. Now, that matchup ended up being a 3-0, which was really weird. So, could be a matchup thing. Could be just, I don't know, maybe they got some bad maps in, not in their favor. Not really sure, but other than that, LA Thieves have looked really good, but they have to beat Dallas if they want to be considered to be above them. In third place, I'm going to put Optic Chicago in there. These guys have looked like the respawn giants to start off this year. Only losing to Atlanta FaZe in a game 5. In that matchup, S&D was a huge issue for them. In the following matches, they definitely looked a lot better. They actually looked like they knew what they were doing in the game mode. So big improvements since that Atlanta match. But that one did go game 5. If they clean up the, a couple respawn simple mistakes and win one of the searches, they probably would have won that series overall. But doesn't go their way. That's their only loss. They've been playing teams pretty strong. I'd like to see a couple more 3-0s out of them. But once they figure out how to close them out, win those searches early on, and then just close it out from there, this team will be in top contention here. Not like they aren't already. Time for our top 2 teams, and could any of would have guessed that? Of course you did. Our second overall team, of course, is the top of Group A. That's going to be the Dallas Empire. And like the casters have said, these guys have looked really good, but not great. There's been a lot of game 5s. You know, this team hasn't been the absolute dominant team that we were kind of predicting going into this year. All game 5s with the exception of the LA Thieves 3-0. And except for the Surge series as well, which I think was either 3-1 or 3-0, I believe. Might have been a game 5, but I don't know. This team, like I said, has looked good. They're still good. They 3-0 LA Thieves. I don't know. This team has looked good, but in order to be that dominant team that everyone is kind of predicting, they gotta win more convincingly. They gotta win in that game 3 or game 4. Obviously, if you get some matchups, then whatever happens. But has looked really good, but not great. And of course, our final team, the Atlanta FaZe, a perfect and our only 5-0. They win all of their matches, obviously. They went game 5 versus Paris, which was really surprising. Obviously, Paris, kind of middle of the pack team right now. And after Optic 3-0'd Paris, kind of weird. Maybe just Paris showed up that day. Not exactly sure, but game 5 versus Paris, obviously Atlanta ended up winning that one. And they had a really close series versus Optic like I said, in a game 5. They won both the searches. And, barely won a hard point. And, obviously, they sneak away with the win there. But convincing wins other than that. But Atlanta FaZe definitely has looked like our best team so far going into the first major of the year. And, of course, that's our next thing. We're going to fully predict everything in the next Call of Duty video. But just to give you guys a look at the bracket, we have 6 teams starting in the winner's bracket. Dallas and Atlanta are getting a first round bye, but in the first round there you have Chicago Optic, or Optic Chicago versus New York Subliners. You got the LA Thieves versus Los Angeles Guerrillas. And then obviously winner of those guys move on to round 2. Down in that loser side of the bracket, you got Seattle versus Florida, Toronto versus London. Whoever wins those move on to the second round versus Paris and Minnesota. Lots to look forward to in the next video. A lot to look forward to in the first ever major of the CDL. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like down below. Let me know of your thoughts and comments down below. Who's surprised you so far? Who's been disappointing? Leave that down in that comment section. If you haven't yet, or if you're brand new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And as always, guys, see you in the next one.
In the shadows.